p.m. Okay.
Good evening. Welcome to Grand Blanc Township Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, January 24th. If we could all rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Robertson, could you call the roll?
I would be happy to call the roll, Mr. Supervisor. Trustee Hugo?
Here.
Trustee Fike?
Here.
Trustee Raritan?
Present.
Trustee White?
Here.
Treasurer Kilmer? Here. Myself, of course, I'm here. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7 members are present, a quorum.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda at this time. Motion by Ms. Hugo,
Motion by Hugo,
support by Mr. Fike.
support by Fike.
Sorry.
Very good. For the agenda, Trustee Raritan?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Okay, at this time, we will entertain public comments, and we ask that we have on the agenda, and I know we're still all getting used to it, but we have a form over on the table that we just ask you to provide your name and some other information for our record, and also so we can provide follow-up to any questions you might have. So at this time, if anybody would like to speak, if you haven't filled one of those out, we'll still entertain you coming forward. But we ask you to keep it to 3 minutes. Anybody wish to make public comment? Okay. Seeing nobody wishing to make public comment, we will close public comment, bring it back to the board, and at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by Dr. Raritan, support by Mr. White.
Supported by White. Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Trustee Raritan?
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Okay. First item on the, under old business is our strategic plan and the complete review of the plan. We have before us the plan with some updates on it. And let's take a look at it. And does anybody first off have anything? Mr. Lima, do you want to make some comments with regard to the plan? Or?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Again, the board adopted the strategic plan after a lot of review, July of 2021. It's a 2021 through 2024 plan identifying what were considered to be some of the major goals that you had set for the township to accomplish. We agree to go through and do a complete review every 6 months to make sure we're doing a check-in on where we're at and take and highlight our accomplishments and make sure that these are still the most important items or goals that the board wishes the staff to continue to pursue. And if there's any changes, if we've accomplished something and you want to take it off and add something else, the 6-month review is a great time for that conversation. Before you in that packet, you have a couple of pages that just go through and kind of highlight some of the most important achievements that have occurred in these areas. Some we've done very, very well in, some that I think we're still behind on and need to put a little more focus on. And then the conversation after that is next steps. Where do you guys want to go? Are there other goals now that we should be pursuing? And then we'll kind of wrap it from there. So I don't, if you want to just go through and take a look at what we highlighted, maybe there's some things that you have questions on, we'd be happy to answer. Again, it's not just me working on it, but it's our entire administrative staff and everybody for the township has involvement in it in one way or another. There's some things we're very proud of. But with that, I turn it back to the board.
So let's just briefly run through these. Everybody is okay with that. The branding, I think we'll all agree that we've gotten a great start on that. Water towers, logo, this room here the entrance to our township hall. We're working on signage. We've got word today that we'll have an update, I think. Are you giving that update, Mr. Lemata? We'll probably have an update sometime during.
For the signs, for the branding, everything's ready to go. The locations have been there. Ms. Diggs has marked everything, so we expect them to be installed in the next 3 weeks. So all those welcome to Grand Blanc signs.
And we're working on, I'm not sure where it falls. I think it's under community vitality, some more signage as well, but we'll talk to that in a second. But, so I think the branding, we're on our way with social media as well. Improving parks and recreation facility. We've done a lot of work with the barn, irrigation of the fields, trail signage, new concrete pads for the stands, bleachers that go up. So we're making a lot of great progress out there. Some new roofs going on. Anything else on Parks and Rec we want to mention, Mr. Lemata?
I think one of the big things is we did work with Genesee County Board of Commissioners, and they were able to provide us for some funding to upgrade the pathways and then replace our old bleachers with ADA accessible bleachers, so there's room for wheelchairs to come in. One of the ways that Parks and Recreation is able to afford to do all the programming that we do is by renting the fields out for the ball tournaments. And if you've ever gone out there on a weekend, I mean, they're busy almost every weekend with a tournament. Some of them said as many as nearly 100 teams out there. This is a big deal to be able to make that ADA compliant so that we're accessible for everyone. So those pathways are going to be paved. There's going to be cement pads, those ADA bleachers. The team out at Parks and Recreation are working with DPW to construct those right now. We have them out at the park. They're building them, and then they will deliver them once the pads are poured. Again, thank you to the Genesee County Board of Commissioners for providing the funding. About $100,000 for us to be able to pull off that project was very, very huge.
And the bridge was huge that we did out there. What did we spend on that? That was a significant project.
The board allocated those ARPA funds for 2 projects. One was that bridge to make sure that we could have the safe crossing over that drainage ditch for our nature trails. That was nearly $90,000, and it was about $96,000, I think, that we put into the maintenance barn upgrades as well. 2 very big projects, and it may not seem like much, even that maintenance barn, but if you're an employee out there who's used to working all winter long in a barn with no heat, trying to work and do all the bigger maintenance on equipment, no break room, no bathrooms, and we were able to fix that with the ARPA dollars. Thank you very much for allocating those funds. But we've made significant improvements, and you look at the amount of money we've spent just in the last couple of years on just the field surface alone with this irrigation. I mean, we've put probably $300 or closer to $500,000 into improvements in the fields, and we've got some big plans still over this year and next year. There was some question by some of the ultimate users about what we charge for the parks, and really what we try to do on those rentals is strictly keep it cost neutral. It's cost recovery. When you think about, we have the best maintained fields in Genesee County. We have them, our staff goes out there, they drag these fields, they chalk them. We've got the best infield mix out there. So when you're renting the fields from us, that's what you've come to expect, is that's why we get the tournaments. It's why we get the revenue that we get. So when we're dealing with, some of the local youth sports teams, it's really on a cost recovery, but somebody who wants to come in and rent those, so hold a big money-making tournament, for example, we continue to review our costs so that we're making sure that we've got cost recovery and then some, so we can continue to maintain those fields. Most people don't realize, but you can easily put $10,000 every single year into one of those fields just maintaining the appropriate infield mix on that field. $10,000 each year per field.
Plus, we have staff time devoted in between games to going and touching up the fields and what have you, so.
Significant progress out at the parks.
Yeah. Okay, community vitality. I don't know if there's anything on parks or branding that anybody wants to touch on that we need to do more of, or maybe we haven't. Yes, Mr. Fite?
I just noticed here that we're tearing down the barn at Perry McGrath Historical Park. Is it falling apart? Is there any historical significance to it? What is that all about?
That barn was actually moved here from another location. It's not a original barn. And unfortunately, when I got here 7 years ago, at that point, they were telling us that the barn, our building official said, probably should keep people out of it due to safety reasons. And it hasn't gotten any better over the last 7 years. To fix it would be considerably expense. At this point, the best thing that we can do is tear it down and gives us the expansion of parking that we actually need out there.
And we've had individuals in that business look at the barn, the wood and what have you, and it's really non-salvageable as far as the wood that is on it from what we've gathered, correct?
The beams appear to be salvageable. A lot of that nice old artistry in those beams, but the wood itself, or barn wood, can be reclaimed and has a nice value. That wood is beyond
Reclaimable.
that stage.
Thank you.
As far as community vitality, enhanced code enforcement, we've started along those lines definitely with we have about, 2.5 employees, the equivalent of what would be 2.5 employees devoted to code enforcement. So I think we've done a great job of catching up on those things. We did have a meeting today that with the Point North Business District, and there's a few areas that we want to take a look at. One of them is our vacant building ordinance make sure we're moving along on that. As far as if we're going to have a vacant building here in Grand Blanc Township, we want it to be maintained, and we don't want it to just stay or basically bring down the area. There aren't too many vacant buildings that people improve, but we don't want them to bring down the rest of the business area where they sit. So we'll be working on that a little bit more as well. Also, under that, Tech Village and DDA growth, we've had tremendous growth there. Any comments on either of those, Dennis?
Yeah, I think one of the things that'll be coming to the board very soon is the developers for Tech Village purchased the property in December. We're into the design engineering phase. We're working with our township engineers, Row Engineering, to get the design engineering done on the water and sewer lines. And at the same time, they're going to do the design engineering for the developers for the roadway that needs to go in. We've talked to them about a public-private partnership. Since Row is a township engineers, they're willing to use Row for their engineering as well. We talked about putting together an agreement where they would put up a cash bond for the roughly $650,000 that it's going to cost them. Our share is about $207,000. They'll put up a cash bond. We'll be the customer to Row so that we can control that design engineering process, and that'll be the next step. Board will be asked to approve it. They've already presented to the DDA. The DDA did approve it moving forward. The DDA intends to help. They'll also be paying back the township for any development investment that we put out into this project. So a really exciting time for us. They are going to, right now, their master plan that they're working on is looking at the conceptual plan that the township put together a couple of years ago. So it's going to have it's mixed-use development with some R&D, light industrial, along with some residential and other commercial, medical offices, office space, retail, restaurants out there. A really exciting project, and we're looking forward to seeing that come forward. But in February, that'll come before the board, asking approval for you guys to kind of do that public-private partnership. Isn't going to cost you anything. They're putting their money up with us on a cash bond. It's just that we're going to partner on hiring the same engineering firm to get the thing kicked off.
Fabulous. Pension and OPEB funding, we know that police unions and Dennis worked hard to negotiate some things to really help us with regard to unfunded liabilities. Any comment on pension and OPEB funding, Dennis?
Really, board's aware that one of the biggest goals that we had, quite frankly, was to get out of the defined benefit pension plan. If money were no object, we would have loved to have kept it because it's a great recruitment and retention tool, especially trying to hire police officers in today's climate is just tough. But we were able to work with our 3 different police unions and come to an agreement with terms went into effect 1/1/2023, where we're no longer in the defined benefit pension plan business for our new hires. Obviously, we're taking care of the officers who were in that plan as they came on board. We made those promises to them. We're going to live up with those promises, but there will be a little bit of short-term pain in the amount that it's going to cost us to work through this, but the long-term financial success of the township really hinged on moving forward from this plan, and I think we still have a very competitive offering for us to be able to recruit, especially we got a new chief. We want to make sure that he's got the tools he needs to be able to get the officers and maintain the professionalism that is become known from the men and women that represent Grand Blanc Township Police Department. But it was a tough negotiation. It's a tough thing to get from an employee standpoint, from a union standpoint, to be able to agree to it. Just happy that we were able to come to a successful conclusion. What I will say about that is, well, this was a very tough negotiation. Hats off to the board. Second time that in the history of Grand Blanc Township that you were able to negotiate contracts and get them ratified before their expiration date. And so it's a big deal.
It's huge. Very big success.
I would just say it's hats off to Dennis.
Yes.
You're here.
He's the guy.
No, it's one of these items on here that, on the sheet is just one of many, but that achievement alone right there is huge for this township and will live on for decades to come. So I'm not sure the public realizes the benefit of that, but I think as board members we do. Point North Business District, I'm sorry,
So it'll pay dividends for a long time.
right. Dave, move your microphone over to it a little bit.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Point North Business District, actually, we had a meeting today with the business owners. Thought it was a very fruitful meeting, and I think we're moving forward on a number of things. Mr. Limita, you want to say anything about that, or?
I think the meeting today just kind of was representative of where we've been going with this group. You've got 4 or 5 business owners now who've agreed to kind of take point on the business association formation. What we heard today was lighting is very important, and it's one of the things that I think that as a board, you guys can accomplish. Like I said, we may need to have a conversation about making an investment in that area and creating a special assessment district for lighting, but the lighting not only tends to highlight, and once we get the signage up that really shows that it's the Point North Business District, maybe something along with the beautification committee so that it really starts to highlight that, whether it's hanging baskets or something that really sets it off, you're in a different area. The lighting is huge, and not only just so that you can see the businesses, but one of the business owners pointed out, we've got family-oriented business up here with bowling alley and Roll Haven, but families don't want to come if it's dark, and really being able to light up this area will make a difference. And from a law enforcement standpoint, law enforcement will always tell you the more lighting you have in an area, the better off from a safety of a citizen standpoint. And it's a great factor in reducing crime opportunities.
Yeah, so just some value from, street, curb appeal.
The other thing, sidewalks. We heard that, and I think that's important too, is we want the mobility, we need lighting, and we need some mobility in this area. And Trustee White pointed out during our meeting conversation, really, if you think about, you can take a sidewalk down from the city of Flint and then all the way to the city of Grand Blanc, except for there's one area that it's broken. And it's right here in what we've designated as the Point North Business District. And that really highlights the fact that, man, oh man, we should really be addressing that.
And with our campus plan here and us looking at that and incorporating that into this Point North Business District also, significant. It might not be immediate, but in the next few years, our campus here is going to become more of a focal point, I believe.
True.
High-quality housing, pros and cons of rental inspection, focus to move towards a business licensing program, include rentals. And I think, one of the things we talked about was doing something with some of the blighted properties in terms of if you're going to have a blighted property and you're not going to take care of it, there's going to be a cost for that. So, anything more on that anybody else?
This is an area I think that, if I'm giving us grades, I'm giving us a D on as far as the follow-up on this from a priority schedule. It got shoved back. Other things took more of a priority. I think it's time, now that we've made significant movement in some other areas, we have to refocus our energies and efforts. And as a staff, we're going to focus more on this particular strategic agenda item and see what we can do to move the needle on that for 2023.
Some things that I think under that vitality that we'll probably be adding in, Dennis, defer to you to figure out where we put it, but, the beautification, we had a committee meeting with a few of our board members this evening and some staffers to talk about, what are some priorities in terms of beautification, everything from signage on some of the expressways to taking care of the roundabouts and the overpasses, some key intersections, those type of things. And so that will probably fall under community vitality, right?
Sure.
I think we've got some exciting ideas, and I think they're going to be doable from the committee that we have, and we're going to be looking for volunteers to help us, including maybe even a garden club. Hint, hint.
Oh, message received and understood, Mr. Supervisor.
Okay. Yes, Mr.
If
Fine.
somebody has a blighted property in their neighborhood or near where they live, who do they contact?
They're going to want to call our code enforcement people. So our building department is where that can be found right now. Dennis, what would you?
We'll follow the International Property Maintenance Code, although, it's not, if you really wanted to do it, you could get somebody for peeling eaves. I mean, we're not that, strict about it. But things that are clearly blight, again, our code enforcement continues to evolve. We've got a great 1-2 punch with Pat and Eric right now that are doing a phenomenal job, combined with Amy in-house. But they should reach out to the township if they've got some concerns about blight. They want questions, they want us to take a look at it. And they can reach out if they just call the regular number, 424-2600, and ask for code enforcement.
Yes, Mr. Laddie?
I think tomorrow morning we have 9 or so cases that are set in the district court. So although that was a bit of a holiday lot, or because the courts were closed, but that staff is rolling right along.
Yeah.
And they're doing a great job.
One of the things I know at the Point North meeting, we had some question on is tracking of those. I don't know. I'm sure we have some type of way of tracking all, but, at any given time, we might have 25 properties that we're in some stage of the process, and somebody calls and says, hey, I called, 3 weeks ago on this place and nothing's happened. Well, guess what? There's certain requirements the law puts on us that you got to wait. You got to give them notice for this much time. You got to, give them time to correct it, so on and so forth. But I guess, part of the question is, and I'm sure we can do this outside the meeting, but what's the tracking of those look like so that they don't get lost? Because, we might end up with a building that is condemned that, hey, we need to follow up on that thing. And how do we know, is there, it's like they have these software for project management or whatever that basically, hey, we need to remember in 6 weeks, we need to go back and, so is there something like that we're using?
When they present a case to me, it's got all of the notifications, it's got it all calendared, it's got all the photographs, it's got all the contacts. And Jeff, I don't know if you guys have something in-house specifically that tracks it, but when they show up to court, they're ready to go.
All right. Okay, good.
Maybe you could share like a report with the board so they can see which ones we've closed, where we're at in the process, things like that. Thank you.
Good. Okay, infrastructure, IT upgrades. We've been very successful in that area. Mr. Limita, any comments on?
Yeah, you don't want me in charge of your IT, that's all I'm saying. IT's just supposed to work. But we do have a great IT department, and Nate, since we brought Nate on board, has been phenomenal. He's really taken us out of the Stone Ages when it comes to where we were at with our IT infrastructure. Not only are we safer, but we're on a better schedule for our capital, replacing capital as we move along, staying on a good schedule for that. We also added it, we keep throwing a lot of curveballs at Nate, like the body cams for the police department, new in-car cams, how those have to work, becoming more cloud-based versus server-based. We never cease to be able to continue to throw curveballs at him, and he handles it and moves forward. And literally, we couldn't be happier with the progress that we've made. That having been said, with IT, you're only as good as right now. Whatever the technology comes out an hour from now, we'll have to be pursuing, and that's just the nature of IT. But I feel very, very confident we have the right people in place to keep us abreast of what we need to do.
Is the rollout on the cameras, the body cams working well, and we're okay there?
Yeah, again, it's kind of still in its infancy. It hasn't been that long. Obviously, in-car cameras forever. The body cams have been out now and doing well. We have the new personnel in place with Ronnie as the administrative assistant to the chief, so that freed up Sherry Potter as our FOIA coordinator, and again, with body cams, and you start to pull that footage out, you got to go through that redaction software. One of those requests for one incident, just a traffic stop, for example, could take hours of time to get through the redaction software to pull all those cameras, make sure, because everything, when they're working on in-car, their laptops in the car, and you've got to make sure you redacted any identifying information or anyone they spoke with. You've got to be able to blur it out or beep it out so that we don't give out any information that we shouldn't give out.
Well, the cameras are worth every cent. Just one incident alone.
Absolutely.
Those things, the camera footage that I've seen, from the car cameras even, is phenomenal. But, and that was a group effort between our mechanics and the IT to get those body cams and the car cameras and all that coordinated. And,
yeah, again, our lead mechanic, Nick, thank God for Nick. Steve retired after, 30 years with us. We were worried because Steve had always been our build guy for our police. Most people have to send him out. We never had to. He trained with Nick for a couple of years before he retired, and Nick's been phenomenal in being able to step up, and he's making sure that the other mechanic is right in step with him so that he also knows how to do these builds, how to work with these cameras, so we won't miss a beat as we move forward.
At some point, we should have the board just take a look at what they do on these cars when they come in. When we receive a new vehicle, these things don't come with all the electrical and all the bells and whistles we need for whether it's one of our K-9 units or just one of our police cars. But they dismantle these things like you would not believe and rewire. And it is just unbelievable. And everything is labeled in these when they're done. And just phenomenal, the amount of technology that these guys aren't using a wrench. It's all technology-based type stuff, but it's impressive. And the money they save us by doing it is incredible. Next, our facility and fire station. We've had several meetings as a board, and I know you got an in-house committee here too, Dennis, but in fact, we had a meeting with regard to the facilities or the campus plan, and several of our board members participated in that meeting. You want to comment on?
Sure. We're right on track where we should be on the DPW and fire station facility. If you recall, 2 weeks ago, I said we were going to ask you guys to form a committee and just take a look at that campus plan, because again, once the board provides direction, as staff, we follow that direction until the board provides another direction. So we were going back to prior boards, early 2000s, who had set that campus plan, and we thought, well, we better make sure, just to check in with the board, are we still operating appropriately if we are going to form a long-term campus plan that one day may have a new administration building attached? Should we be looking on that property before we put those footprints in stone? I'm happy to report that committee went very, very well. We looked at some of those old plans. We have been provided the direction that, nope, it still makes sense for us to keep our options open for administration building off of Saginaw. But we never missed a beat on where we were going with these facilities. They will open. I know there was some firefighters who had some questions about, after that meeting, whether we were stopping the fire station. I don't know who started that rumor. Whoever it was nonsense. We never talked about that. Our foot's on the gas. We're building this thing. We understand the importance of this, and we're going to make that happen. The other thing that it did bring up that I think this board should consider is adding to your strategic plan is to have a conversation over the next year about the long-term campus plan and really sit down, do some engineering, take a look at this building. If you were to build a new administration building 10 years from now, what are the possible reuses of this building? Would it be bulldozed? Is it still engineering sound? Could it be something else? Would it make a great community center? That would be a great strategic agenda item for this board to really just to take a look at that campus plan and review what was done 20 years ago, and then put your thumbprint on what you expect to see over the next 10 to 20 years, especially since we picked up that property since then. We've built these new buildings since then. I would encourage you to maybe add something to your strategic agenda. I mean, there's other things that you may want to add, but I think that would be a great one-year focus for the board.
I think we should. I mean, if nothing else, just to brainstorm what the possibilities are and keep our options open. But I know the committee, we looked at, whether it made sense in the future to have our office located on Dort Highway or continue to have it on Saginaw Street. And some may not realize it, but where the police department building is built, there was supposed to be a mirror image of that building basically built to the south of that building. And the properties there, the drive even is stubbed so that you could have a drive going over there for that. We probably spent all the money on the police department building and didn't have enough money for the administration building, but or times change, I should say, economically, and so that building never happened. But in about 10 years, that will be paid off, the police.
2031, the bonds are paid off for the police department building. So if you were moving in that direction, really you think that planning, you don't wait till 2031 to start that plan. You see how long it takes to get this thing moving. You'd probably be doing that in 2028 and starting that process, so that if you were going to transition into this is what we're going to have to get us through the next 35 years, you'd start that project and it'd start building in 2031.
Right. So I think it wouldn't hurt to have that on there to look at and start laying some preliminary groundwork. Discussion. Any thoughts? Additional thoughts? Mr. Reardon, Dr. Reardon? Okay.
Like the direction.
Okay. Joel. Yes, Mr. Fike.
I love the thought of a community center. I had never heard that until we really got into this. And, can you see pickleball courts here somewhere? Something to think about. We don't really have a place that would be open to the public that, our citizens could use for recreation or anything like that. I don't know if that could be self-sustaining or, anything like that, but something to think about.
Well, especially in the north part of the township. You look at, when you look at a map of where the recreational opportunities are, at least the public recreational opportunities, I think this area kind of is in a vacuum in terms of having any type of park or what have you. But if we turn the campus into more of a park-like setting here eventually, with some pathways going amongst the pond and the buildings, and then this could be, the ceilings in here are deceptive. They're much higher than what we're looking at right now. This used to be an armory and police department and what have you. So it's built, at least the bones of it are there, but we're going to have to put substantial money into it if we're going to keep using it as an office building. And it might not make sense to keep doing that. It might make more sense to find another use for this that serves the public in this area. And if this is going to be, if we're trying to focus on making the north part of the township more, bringing more vitality to it, certainly it would bring some quality of life. We might be able to pick up some grants for those types of things. So I think it's worth exploring. Okay. I'm glad we're doing more than just buying trucks and police cars tonight.
As important as that is,
Yeah.
Yes, I'm just saying that we started out our board, I think, the first couple of meetings saying we want to be a board about doing more than just approving expenditures, right? And having a strategic plan that we're following helps us to do that, to set out some worthy goals, and we're accomplishing a number of them, as we can see.
Said you guys adopted this plan in July of 2021. It's January of 2023. We just went through 35 minutes of accomplishments in that 19-month period. That's pretty phenomenal. It just, and again, that once we do this every 6 months, we take a look at it. We'll look at it again in July. But I think it just shows that they were very worthy goals that were chosen by the board, selected by the board. I think we're making excellent direction. If you guys still feel that way, we'll keep working. If you've got some other comments, let us know, and we'll change direction. And I think I will add then, as one of the strategic items, if the board agrees, is that campus plan. We'll just add that as a strategic item, and then you guys can start taking a look at that. We'll gather the previous information, get it out to the board, and then go from there.
And that beautification under the community vitality, we just need to update that.
Okay.
Okay, next item under old business, ARPA funding update. Mr. Lehman?
If you look at, in your packet, there is a sheet that kind of walks you through where the funding has been and what we spent to date. I think the only thing that wasn't in here yet, because the checks haven't been issued, is the hazard pay retention bonus that was a part of the police department contract for 2023. Those will be processed soon, and then you'll see the dollar amount show up in your next report.
Yes,
So-
Mr. Feigen?
Is it on here, Dennis, like how much we have left or how much we've spent? Is it right here?
We had $3.8 million, and you've spent $344,000 to date.
Oh, wow. We haven't spent anything.
And we have some allocated that we haven't, moved forward yet, but we'll provide that. We'll give the breakdown. We had 50% of it up front. We got the other 50% coming this year, I believe. So
Okay.
again, allocated by December 31st of 2024, has to be spent by December 31st of 2026.
We've been frugal.
Well, so far.
Good.
Okay, any questions, concerns? Under new business, the board will consider a motion to approve the purchase of 54 Census MXUs for $12,960 from Aetna Supply and authorize the township superintendent to execute all documents. We have Mr. Sears here. If anybody has any questions? Pretty much annual purchase, or we might have bought 2 years' worth in the past sometimes, but
Good evening.
good evening.
Like the agenda memo says, these are just remote meter readers that we put on every home and business. Basically, right now, we buy them when we can get them because they're in such short supply. So these happen to pop up in stock, and we pre-ordered them. They haven't been ordered yet, but upon the board's approval, we'll hit the submit button and they'll be ours. So these are very difficult to get right now, along with water meters.
Yes, Mr. White?
I'd move to approve.
Okay. Support by Ms. Hugo. Question?
How much of our need for these have we fulfilled? We still have a big outstanding need, or?
This will get us by for some time. 54 of them is quite a few, but we have some new houses that we haven't been able to place them on, and then we have some repairs we need to make, and then this will give us maybe half for stock.
So, Mr. Sears, we're replacing them over time though, right? I mean,
We do replace them over time. They have batteries in them, and the batteries do go bad, so we do replace them over time as they get older, and we are considering a water meter replacement program. Most of these are brand new. We just finished a replacement program when I came here, and I think we finished it in 2016, so most of them are brand new. But there are still some older ones out there that we need to go back and fix.
All right. Okay, there's been a motion, there's support. Any further
Shall I
discussion?
call the roll, Mr. Supervisor?
Please.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Raritan?
Yes.
Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Item B, the board will consider a motion to approve a contract with Rowe PSC for $24,000 to design a water pressure sustaining valve as part of the Enterprise Park Water Main Project and authorize the township superintendent to execute all related contracts and documents. Mr. Sears?
So as part of the Enterprise Park water system design, we found out that we need a pressure sustaining valve where it connects into Grand Avenue, which is on the preserves off of McCandless Road.
Creekside Village.
What's that?
You have the wrong subdivision, Creekside Village.
Creekside Village, I apologize. So basically what that means is the pressure coming off of Baldwin Road is higher than the pressure that's coming off of Creekside Village. And we basically need to make sure we equalize that and that we don't blow those people out of the water whenever we connect the two. The pressure sustaining valve will adjust itself as the demand changes throughout the day to make sure that that pressure and flow stays equalized. We have 3 or 4 of them right now throughout the township. We'll just be adding another one. This right now is for Rowe to complete the design work on that. The valve itself is going in the pit that it goes in will cost around $90,000. And then we're figuring another $30,000 for installation, which hopefully Vessler and Bowman, who's the contractor on site right now, can do for us.
Okay. Yes. Okay, motion by Ms. Hugo,
Motion by Hugo,
support by Mr. Fike.
supported by Fike. Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Trustee Raritan?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item C, the board will consider a motion to approve the purchase of police fleet equipment to equip 3 2023 Tahoes in the amount of $31,881.87 from Winder Police Equipment and authorize the superintendent to execute all contracts and related documents. And we have with us Chief Rennie.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, yeah, at last board meeting, we had approved the 3 brand-new 2023 Tahoes for our police fleet. This here is to equip those 3 vehicles with lights, sirens, push bumpers, storage containers, center consoles, and additional hardware.
Okay.
I'll make the motion if that's appropriate, Mr. Supervisor.
Supported by Dr. Reardon.
Supported by Raritan. Supported. Okay, Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Unfortunately, probably most of you saw in the news where we had one of our Tahoes, basically, I believe, probably totaled by somebody driving on 75, I think it was, and.
It's salvageable, but, yeah, a lot of damage on it.
Yeah, so basically, we need people to slow down when our police have somebody pulled over on the side of the road or helping somebody that already had an accident. But thankfully, our police officers weren't injured severely from that. Item D, the board will consider a motion to approve zoning case number 674D to amend section 4.8 of the zoning ordinance, accessory roadside stands, and delete section 7.4.9F. We have our zoning administrator, Mr. Jeremy Smith.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So on the January 5th Planning Commission meeting, they held a public hearing for the zoning amendment that you just listed to refine the standards for section 4.8, accessory roadside stands, and to delete section 4.9.f that provides for the zoning board of appeals as the approving authority for the temporary roadside stands. Planning Commission recommended the township board with an 8-0 vote for approval. Planning and zoning department would recommend a motion for approval tonight for the above-mentioned text amendments as presented.
So for the public's information, Mr. Smith, can you kind of tell them what this will do for roadside stands?
Yes. So the planning commission approved and recommended to the township board that if it's a temporary roadside stand for a 6-month calendar period, that it gives me authority to approve those temporary roadside stands at no charge. As the zoning ordinance says today, is that any roadside stand, temporary or permanent, has to be ran and approved by the planning commission, which could cost upwards of $500 to $1,500 or more. So the temporary ones now would be given to my authority at no charge. I would do the legwork at my own time during office hours, do the approvals. But then if it's going to be a permanent roadside stand, then it would still have to go through today's process of being approved by the planning commission. Thought process is that those are not going to be removable structures. They're going to have to deal with setback issues potentially, parking, other issues that a normal site plan would go through. So that's why the planning commission still wanted to see those come before them.
You know, the dilemma that we faced was that we have, complaints from some residents that, hey, my neighbor has a year-round garage sale in their driveway. They just cover it with tarps, when the thing isn't open. But then on the other hand, we have somebody who just wants to sell a little bit of firewood and have a self-serve stand there that you put your $5 in and take your thing of wood.
Right.
And previously, they all fell under one ordinance and really didn't allow us to have kind of, some balance there that we're not going to allow year-round garage sales on somebody's driveway. And I think this will help resolve those type of issues. At least hopefully it will.
Yes.
Any thoughts or concerns on this change?
Are there any rules, regulations as far as parking or whatever that go along with this, or is it just?
We'll have to still look at health and safety is a big component of me going out and taking an inspection of each site. But most of your temporary ones are going to be a in and out kind of thing. You're not going to have the backup of cars where you would at a bigger roadside stand where there could be 10, 15 cars in a front yard. Most of them, like you said, Supervisor Bennett, was that selling wood or, they've got a bench out or a pop-up stand and they're selling tomatoes at, a couple dollars a piece. So there's really I don't think there's a need for worrying of parking. Now, if something comes and that we have issues, obviously that will be addressed and then we'll handle that one on a case-by-case basis.
And that's why we want somebody, like you to be able to handle a case-by-case basis, because if we have somebody, there's a big difference between somebody having a bench out there with a couple of tomatoes and a couple of cucumbers versus somebody having a farmer's market in their front yard.
Correct.
Where you're gonna have, 5, 10 cars. Now, guess what?
I've seen 10 cars at a garage sale.
Yeah, well, we allow garage sales, but
Yeah, garage sales, I mean, well, no, that's still not allowed. You're still required you're supposed to get a garage sale permit anytime you have a garage sale per our ordinance.
Right.
Most people don't, though.
but if it becomes a problem, we can go out and ask that they do and limit
Yes, sir.
so that it doesn't run into months-long sales.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Dr. Ritter, making the motion, supported by Ms. Hugo?
Motion by Kilmer?
No, motion by Raritan.
Raritan. Forgive me, I was
Oh, that's
distracted for a
Supported
moment.
by Hugo.
Hugo?
Yep.
Supported by Hugo. Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Trustee Raritan?
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Item E, the board will consider a motion to approve zoning case number 674E to amend section 4.50.1 of the zoning ordinance, parking, storage, and repair of vehicles, and section 5.25 accessory structures. Mr. Smith?
So section 4.50.1, the parking and storage and repair of vehicles, is to clarify that the parking motor vehicles in the front yard and required side yards shall be, all work will be done on improved surface, which is concrete or asphalt. And then also in that section, We also added in that we had an issue with a resident who lived on a dirt road. We still have a few in the township, and they were looking to expand their driveway for more parking because they have teenagers and whatnot. They have more cars than they could handle in the yard, so they're not supposed to park any motor vehicle in the grass. They were requesting to widen their driveway. Well, as the current ordinance states, is you have to have a approved surface. Well, the only approved surface we have is concrete or asphalt. So in this section, we also added that if you have you're on a dirt road and have a dirt driveway, you can expand it using gravel or dirt. You don't have to pave it with asphalt or concrete.
Makes sense.
If they're on a street that is paved, it's my understanding, if I recall correctly, and they want to expand their driveway, they have a year to, they can use gravel to expand it, but then within a year, they have to pave that.
Yes, sir.
That portion. Yeah. So, this gets rid of any shade tree mechanics.
Yes, yes, and they all have to be licensed and operable cars parking on those approved surfaces as well.
Right.
And then the other section 5.2 for accessory structures, we added a provision in there that if you have 2 acres or more, you're allowed to increase the mean height of your accessory building from 14 feet to 18 feet. The mindset is that if you have toys, these RVs and such are not getting any smaller or shorter. So this alleviates having to park those items outside, and you can put those bigger accessory vehicles inside.
Any questions, concerns, thoughts? And I'm sure this passed with overwhelming support.
Yes, also this one was, both of those items were passed with an 8-0 vote.
Yeah. Okay, somebody care to make the motion? Mr. Fike,
Mr. Fike,
supported by Mr. White.
motion by Fike, supported by White. Item 7E, Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Item F, the board will consider a motion to approve zoning case number 675 to amend section 4.14 of the zoning ordinance attached single-family dwelling unit design standards.
So at that same January 5th meeting, just like the last two, the Planning Commission recommended an 8-0 vote. This is for appearance standards for attached single-family residential to clean up the standards for single-family attached units and multifamily units in the low, medium, and high-density multifamily zoning jurisdictions.
I'm supportive of this. And
So what this entails is that as the current ordinance states is that if you are in one of these sections, you have to have if you have an adjoining common wall, the next unit next to you has to be 50% offset in that common wall. So what we've done today is we're recommending that we can drop that down to 20% as long as you follow a more strict design guidelines and a more unique building facade. Brick, dormers, more architectural standards, with the thought that we still don't want to see row housing, but if you bring us a superior product, we're willing to work with you to drop it down to the 20%, but it still has to be approved by the Planning Commission.
so what you end up with is some better-looking buildings, because so for example, if you want to, right now, if you're going to build adjoined housing, it's got to have a 50% setback, so you'll see, staggered housing instead of just a flat row. And so we require that, but if they improve the materials that they're using, we're gonna let them drop that back to 20%, which saves them some money because they can have more common wall.
Correct.
But they're gonna spend some money on what the appearance of the outside looks like.
Correct.
So you drive down to, let's say, there's a drive, I think it's Martin DePores or something like that, down in the Novi area, Commerce area, and they have a lot of condos along that road, but they also, I think, probably subscribe to something like this, where the materials that they use, they've allowed them to not do quite 50%, 20. I think it'd work well in our community. So, any thoughts, concerns?
Just a general
Yeah.
comment that, I appreciate that you have tackled some of these issues that we've been talking about.
Yes.
And even 8 years ago, you know, and I think you're doing a good job.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I'll make the motion on this one.
On item 7F, motion by Bennett. I'll support it myself, if that's all right.
Sure.
Okay, trustee Hugo,
Yes.
trustee Fike,
Yes.
trustee Raritan,
Yes.
trustee White,
Yes.
treasurer Kilmer,
Yes.
myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Item G, the board will consider a motion to purchase 2 Kubota RTVs from the Flint New Holland, Inc. for $33,591.48 and authorize the township superintendent to execute all related purchase orders. Ms. Lemata, good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you all. So the plan is that originally we had it in the millage funds to dedicate it towards getting a truck. We talked it over with the park staff, and we decided that getting 2 Kubotas for our seasonals to get around the park would just be the better option. We originally looked at golf carts too as an option. They're about only $1,000 cheaper than the Kubotas, and the Kubotas are 4-wheel drive, so it just makes more sense, especially all the terrain that we need to navigate at the park. So that is why we're looking for 2. One of them will have the full cab and also give us the ability to plow snow with it, and then the other one will just, again, be helping with dragging the fields or moving equipment around or helping set up the pavilions in the morning, so.
Okay. Any questions, concerns?
Another
Dr. Reardon?
general comment.
Sure.
Like Mr. Smith, I think has done a very good job. I think you've done a very good job, and you guys used to have when I was on the Parks Commission way back, they had a lot of people in their office, and I don't know what you guys have now, but I'm sure it's significant. 2.
2 at the park.
And they probably had 5 or 6 anyway. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know that I think you're doing a phenomenal job.
So will the police be able to use these too in the park or no?
They have their own stuff.
They have their own stuff.
Okay. We aren't putting lights and sirens on it though.
No.
Having said that,
Okay. Okay, you're going to make a motion?
Motion by Raritan,
Supported by Hugo.
support by Hugo. Trustee Fike,
Yes.
trustee White,
Yes.
trustee Hugo,
Yes.
trustee Raritan,
yes.
treasurer Kilmer,
Yes.
myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Future agenda items. I think we're going to be able to report on a few things coming up with meetings we have. But Lemata, anything that you have that we want to?
I think a couple things that came up this evening that I think would be of interest to the board, at least to start with the subject. One, Mr. Sears can provide an update to the board on how we do track the code enforcement complaints and provide us a report on that. So I'll make a note for that. And then the other thing would be that campus plan. We'll put the preliminary materials together and get that to the board as well, so you guys get a chance to look at what was done prior and then decide what kind of direction you want to take it from there.
Okay. Board reports. Anything, Ms. Hugo?
No, I
Dr. Reardon? Mr. Kilmer?
No.
Nothing for me.
Okay. Mr. Fike?
I have 4 things, sorry.
4. I don't know if we have time for
You have
that.
30
I'll be
seconds.
brief. At tomorrow night's meeting, there's 4 things that relate to Grand Blanc Township. I just pulled them from the agenda. South Saginaw and East Baldwin Road, a signal modernization, $136,000. What's
Which intersection again?
South Saginaw and East Baldwin?
South Saginaw and East Baldwin. Okay.
It's about the traffic light at Baldwin and Saginaw.
Perry Road Trail, Mancour Drive to sidewalks west of Gale Road, 1.83 miles. Construct Perry Road multi-youth path. I guess that's the Iron Bell Trail?
It is the Iron Bell Trail. It's been several years in progress, and we're finally getting there.
$1.120 million.
And we were able to get the school to donate a little bit of property at East Middle School to provide trailhead there.
The eventual cost is $1.6 million, if this is correct. Also, East Baldwin Road, Holly Road, to 900 feet west, reconstruction, $512,000.
Baldwin and Holly.
That's what it says. I just read from their agenda.
Was that just your original construction? Okay.
It'd be nice if they did something with the light there. You sit at that light for quite a while sometimes, and there's nobody coming. Especially if you're going east and west. That light can be real long. If you're there at night, you'll see absolutely no traffic, and yet you'll be stopped for, I swear, 10 minutes.
Baldwin and Holly.
If you see a few other people nodding their head, Baldwin.
Yep.
Yeah,
The other one is Cook and Holly that I don't like either.
McCandlish and Holly is an issue at times too. But anyway, one last one. Holly Road and Baldwin to southbound I-75 ramps, road rehabilitation, $262,000. We all know about those?
Yep.
Okay.
What is that one?
It's just a mill, right? It's
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. Anything, Mr. White? Yeah. Okay. We've had quite a few meetings between the beautification, the township campus. We also had a meeting with regard to our 911 consortium. We had a meeting here at the township, and we looked at the data. Things may have slightly improved due to COVID, being pretty much, well, I won't say behind us, but at least the volume of calls related to that and the ambulances being tied up due to that may have helped some of the results improve in terms of response time. But we still haven't found a way that, how would I phrase it, that we can get the consortium to operate within state statute and county ordinance. We're still not dispatching in many communities, 13 communities, not dispatching EMS based on closest available units. And it's not being direct dispatched either. It's in many cases in those exclusive areas, or those areas that have exclusive contracts. So our concern continues as a township to be in our committee that met has concerns over the liability of being tied to a consortium or a partner, basically, that is not operating within the law from all of our attorney opinions that we've received. Dr. Reardon?
So they're continuing to violate the law. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Would it help, and this is for Attorney Laddie, for standing, if we could show, as a result, there was a decrease in response time to our area for...
Well, I think so. So what you found, I think, is that you're on the least popular side of that discussion, right? And even though Supervisor Bennett made very valid points about the legality of it, you have members of the consortium that have said, look, we have a bigger problem than some future liability. And so I don't know if you'll get any traction as far as standing among the communities to try to persuade them to do something different, although that's an option for you. But certainly, I think the overall effect of delayed times, not only for communities that are contract participants, but also non-contract participants, might help you in shaping that policy. God forbid there be any sort of giant liability explosion that would cause us to run for cover, but that would help.
I guess I'm not even talking about other municipalities. I'm talking just about Grand Blanc Township having standing.
Legally.
By result of this new policy, if our response times decreased because of it.
So by standing, do you mean in a legal sense?
Yes, to sue.
Yeah, I think, I know you guys have counsel, and I'm not gonna speak for them, but I think that might be something that they would consider helpful.
A general question, Mr. Laddie. Who is responsible in the county for making sure that county ordinances are adhered to. So if the, for example, if the county prosecutor is aware that a county ordinance is being violated, is it their responsibility to investigate?
So it is, the county board of commissioners, the county board of commissioners is the ones that essentially are not the license holder, but they are the operative agency for Tennessee County 911. And even though they have sort of lent their authority to the consortium, the Corporation Council, they serve Genesee County Board of Commissioners, and I would think Corporation Council would be interested in that, because even though there's a layer of liability with the Genesee County 911 Consortium that is covered by insurance, and I think there is a legal disconnect, enough of one for liability's sake, for the operations of the consortium, which again is all the participating communities, and the Genesee County Board of Commissioners. But I would think that they would have an interest in that. I would think that they might have some legal concern about that, but I don't know where it falls on their scale of priorities.
Have we addressed the county board about this?
Actually, the 911 consortium had brought it to the county board over a year ago and said, hey, we need you to get involved in this discussion. And at that time anyways, they said, no, we're not getting involved in that discussion. You guys work it out. But, what's come clear in the last year, at that first, discussion, it wasn't, clear that we're violating law. It was basically, hey, we need you to help resolve this issue of EMS response time. It wasn't, hey, we want you to get involved because we're breaking the law here. So it might be a different question today if we went to them.
If I may,
Yes, Clerk Robertson?
and if I may, the question itself is a different one. The issue is, if we bring to the Corporation Council's attention that a violation of a county ordinance is taking place, okay, then I would think that Corporation Council would have a legal obligation to the Board of Commissioners to bring it to their attention, and they have to take some action to make sure that the ordinance is being adhered to.
Or change the ordinance.
Or change the ordinance, but what they cannot do is do nothing.
Well, and the only thing that I'm not clear on as I sit here today is and I don't want to call it a disconnect, but the level of essentially allowing the consortium to operate as its PSAP. I don't know if that creates enough level of insulation for the County Board of Commissioners. It certainly doesn't from a political standpoint, and I don't necessarily think it would from a legal standpoint. I don't think the County Board of Commissioners would be absolutely immune if Genesee County 911 Consortium became bankrupt, or if they were subject to some significant liability concerns. I don't know if it's direct, though, Clerk Robertson, but it's certainly something that they should be aware of, and that they should weigh in on, frankly.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
So we'll do some more discussion, but I think our next step would be to notify the county board and the prosecutor, unless anybody here has an issue with that. But, okay. Mr. Lima?
I've got nothing.
Okay. Attorney Laddie?
Same with me.
Okay.
Is the motion to adjourn in order, Mr. Supervisor?
Absolutely.
Then I will make that motion.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, we are adjourned at 8:10 PM.